didn't see you guys there. My name's Brad, and I love sports. But you know what I love more than sports? Education. The understanding of knowledge. And I'm here to teach you guys about the politics, decisions, and laws of the Civil War. Let's get into it. See, before the Civil War started going, there was this entire conflict about the western states. See, the South wanted slaves allowed there, but the North didn't want none of that. They didn't see a need for slaves with the upcoming industry, you know? So, the conflict began with the South really just being pissed off at the North. It was kind of babyish, if you ask me. Real men with their own problems. See, before Lincoln was president, the South wouldn't put him on the ballots because they didn't like that he was preaching about this lack of slaves in the western colonies. So, Lincoln, being the badass he was, still won. Eat shit, South. But after Lincoln won, the South decided to secede because they didn't like his politics. And they wanted to create their own thing. Thus, the Confederacy of babies. You see, before Lincoln was a thing, and before he was elected, the South was already having a quarrel with this bodacious dude named John Brown from the northern states. You see, John Brown was coming down and messing up their shit with all gnarly forms of raiding. And the South was getting really pissed. So they started to mobilize on the northern and southern border, you know. And that's the fundamentals of the very, quick, I need a lot. They're super bogus army. Great. Now what does that all mean? Well, America split into two, and the North didn't want to recognize the legitimacy of the South's succession. Another reason the states succeeded was because of the rights between central power and state power. You see, the South was really into the fact that the states had their own power, you know, they each individually were like, oh, we all make our rules and shit. Where the North was more like, oh, we want the government to be the central controller, you know. And that was one of the bigger conflicts between the North and the South at the time. With pressure building up between the North and the South, a battle was bound to break loose. The Battle of Fort Sumter happened, which went in the North's favor. More battles broke out soon after, with all of them almost always going in the North's favor. This went on for about 3 years. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election, but he only barely won due to a minute amount of votes. And this was because of his most recent capture of General Sherman. Bodacious! In 1865, Abraham Lincoln, during his inaugural address, announced that he was going to end the war and bring both the South and North back together to create the North, the South. And just soon after that, General Lee of the Southern Army surrendered, marking the end of the Civil War. And just 5 days after that, Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. After Lincoln's assassination, the President Johnson arose. He was a Southerner who took over after Lincoln and wanted to pass more lenient laws in the Confederate States. But the Congress wasn't going to have that. Nah. Instead, they were like, well, justice and shit, and we're like, nah, in fact, we're gonna pass harsher laws in the South now, cause fuck you, Andrew Johnson. Hey, class, now let's talk about Reconstruction. The 13th Amendment was the amendment that abolished slavery, making it illegal. The 14th Amendment was the one that allowed black people to have the same rights as any other old person. The 15th Amendment allowed all men the right to vote. In order for a state to successfully rejoin the Union, they would have to ratify the new amendments added to their new Constitution. However, this lasted a while, starting with Tennessee in 1866 and ending with Georgia in 1870. Nearly 4 years of progress. During Reconstruction, in an effort to get past the Congress's new laws, getting rid of slavery and abolishing it, southern states started passing laws called black codes. Black codes were laws that would disallow, I guess, in a way, people of color to do things like get jobs, go to school, and other basic American needs. Oh, also not vote. It's just things like that. And it was just a huge bummer, and it was just not necessary. But this caused a lot of conflict between the South and the North. During Reconstruction, the North would help the South reconstruct their roads, buildings, and many other things, including farms. This, however, was only for Reconstruction. This helped bolster the economy in the South. In 1877, Reconstruction ended under the presidency of Rutherford Hayes. Sadly, the amendments made before didn't last much longer under Hayes' advisory, and much was turned back to the ways of old.